Now we are live with another episode of Talking About Bupkes, a very special episode. We are live in Berlin, in the beautiful home of Oded Schechter, Talmudic scholar, philosopher, and owner of beautiful dog Seamus, who's also joining the episode. So a very eclectic episode we're going to have. And first and foremost, very special thanks to Oded for joining the Bupkes. We know that you don't give many interviews. This is not normally the context in which you speak about the Talmud, about the role of Zionism in its relationship with Judaism, Jewish history, Jewish philosophy. So we thank you very much for joining us today. And we're going to talk about some very complicated issues. The audience of the Bupkes is very intelligent, very sophisticated, but maybe doesn't know all of the terms and the people and the historical events. When we post this episode, we're going to add a lot of footnotes. We're going to add a lot of links. We're going to add a lot of information. So if you're listening live, come back to when we post, because if you're lost, if you're confused, if you don't know the background of certain things, we're going to post it all then, because if we talked all about the background, we would never actually get to the tachelis of what we're going to talk about. I think one thing we want to talk about today is how not Jewish the idea of Jewish nationalism is.
Okay. Yeah, I want to take it into that place.
Mhm.
It's difficult. It's a bit difficult to follow. I will try to be as simple as I can in that sense. So I want to say that to understand what is a Jew in modernity is to understand colonialism. Before Zionism, Zionism is just, in general, we have to think about for a moment as Jews or whatever you want to your listener to be thinking as for a moment as a Jew. Zionism and Israel and the nation part is a tiny moment in the history of Judaism. Yeah. It probably will be the end of it, but it will be destruction for everything. But it's a tiny moment in this history.
Right. Long before there was Zionism, there was anti-Zionism.
Yeah, yes. But yeah, Jews lived in so many different ways. The cultures of even the name Jew is not like exhaustive. And that is something that people find very difficult to understand, to grasp the world, to grasp their own history, to grasp other people's history, to grasp the history of Europe, to grasp the history of colonialism, to grasp the history of the colonized, of Palestine, and so on, without understanding that Zionism is just a tiny event that will probably end in a disaster for everyone. And
Jew and not Jew.
Jew and not Jew.
Why would, in your view, why is Zionism the end?
Let me put that into the question of why I say colonialism.
Okay.
And that's
we'll start there.
Will help me. Zionism itself is not the first moment of the colonial Zionism. Zionism is just a certain moment within this project of transforming the Jew from the perspective of Europe into a colonial special subject, which we will talk about in a second. For the listeners who are not, just take into account, for instance, this novel by George Eliot, Before Zionism, Daniel Deronda. George Eliot, the great novelist, is basically secular in the way that we see it. Yeah, I'm saying it in hesitance because it's difficult.
Big quotation marks around the term secular.
Right. She left the Christian church. She translated, by the way, Spinoza's Ethics into English. One of the translations.
Oh wow.
Not such a good translation, but it's a very
better than none.
Yeah, but that's very difficult work to do. You can see how she was involved in every aspect of that Enlightenment, Romanticism, and so on. But what is the way that she is envisioned this kind of wonderful enlightenment that comes to Europe? As from the religious Jew, he goes to Palestine, getting some kind of a state, and through it, the Jew is liberated.
Liberated from European.
Liberated
from what?
That's the liberation is always something which you can never say exactly. You can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But the feeling is always that we have to be careful not to take it for granted, because say liberated from anti-Semitism, liberated, he will find himself as political. But the point is that the work of modernity is liberation. So let's be a bit careful not yet to feel the liberated from what? Just liberated.
Okay, just liberated.
It's liberated.
Good to be liberated.
Exactly. You are liberated before you are liberated from what? Later you will find out what you are liberated for. That is the role of ideology, education, and so on to make sure that you know that you are liberated. So they will find for you so many ways that to be liberated, like Zionism find you. If you go to Israel, you will be liberated from the anti-Semitism. You will be liberated from all of those things. The list is countless, yeah?
Okay, good enough to be liberated.
Yeah. Why do I bring Daniel Deronda? Because, or George Eliot here, what is the role of the Jew? What Jew wanted to become a nation at that moment? And what perspective, not what wants. We are not, at the moment, we are not interested in what a person wants, but what are the horizon that the person has in terms of understanding, building subjectivity, whatever, taking part in the world, whatever you now wish to call it. And what we're trying to see is that the Zionism, in a way, is a group of many organizations together, that's war, that's put into motion something which is basically Christian, secular Christian, that see the liberation of the Jew or the exclusion of the Jew from Europe, basically. Because what kind of sick idea is to tell people who lived in Europe for at least 2,000 years?
Jews are more European than Europeans?
Yes, so they are told at some point by this to understand them. What make it possible to understand them at that moment as people who belong but don't belong, people who has a special form. And the Jew for Deronda or for this secular project has part of the thing is this transformation of what is religious in Judaism into a secular national structure. This transformation is the role of the Jew within this colonial project, and that's what Zionism is about. I want to give you an example of what of how deep it goes into our mind that we miss this, that we don't see this transformation, the colonial transformation that's helped the creation of that subjectivity of the Jew as agent of colonialism. That's where we are heading. Okay, we are heading to understand the Jew as a kind of subjectivity that fills a colonial structure in a certain agency, the way that a person acts and understand the way that they relate to each other, they relate to the world in this world. And what I was trying to see how Jews, even today, I'm not speaking about Jews in Israel, I speak about every Jew in America.
The diaspora.
The diaspora, wherever you want to call it. Each of them is subjugated, is abused, and we don't see it. If you think about holy places in the Holy Land, yeah. So there are Christian holy places, there are Muslim holy places, there are Jewish holy places. And it belongs mostly to communities. Like when Europe became the image, secularized, when Germany became secularized, the church didn't become part of the state. It had to the contrary, right? It was separated from the state immediately. Or that was the fantasy. Yeah, officially.
Right? Officially, the church is its own thing.
Yeah, officially, the church in Germany is not part of the state. But in terms of ownership, the church belonged to the church. And so in the Holy Land, in Palestine. But what happened to the Jewish property in Palestine? Basically, the Jewish property, the Jewish holy property, like the synagogues and so, they belong to us, like to every Jew, or to Jewish communities, until the point of the Zionism, the national movement, basically disappropriate this
disenfranchised
those holy objects from us.
The Jews were dispossessed of their own objects by Israel,
by the states, because you cannot now claim, and that is a very important moment that's happened there. Because the whole claim of this national movement is this holy place, yeah? If it's holy, then it should not be part of the state. But in the case of the Israel, it is exactly this part of structure that's move it between the holy and the state to take it out of the hand of the Jews. So the national structure of Israel is to take out the possession of the Jews from whatever it is, the culture, the artifact, the languages, the way of life, and we will go on to more complicated things in the Holy Land and outside of the Holy Land, and to own it and to control it and to speak in our name. Just this week, I don't know if you heard this Prime Minister of Israel telling President Trump that he speaks in the name of the name of the people in Israel, and he is sure that he speaks in the name of all the Jews.
Right. This has been a Netanyahu line for decades.
Yeah.
You know, speaking for the Jews.
Yeah, but this is the line of Israel, and we can go through that from it's the line of Zionism. They speak in the name of the Jews. They speak in the name of you, in your name. They speak in the name of my name. They speak in everyone's name. What kind of subjectivity is created and imposed on every Jew in the world, and if and what kind of resistance is possible then for the Jews? So, but the first thing is that we are dispossessed. Just for a second, you ask the question of what is the position of an anti-Zionist Jew in the world about the holy places in Palestine on the Holy Land. Should be my understanding exactly that each of that belongs to every Jew, and it cannot be the decision of the state of Israel what to do with that. You cannot decide that because if it is this exactly, that is the place where we have to understand how we are dispossessed from all of our ability. There are so many treasures of Jewish communities, and I want just to refer to one little story of that, which for me includes all of these.
It says everything.
Yeah, it's like there was this Mahzor, this book of prayers of Worms of Mahzor from medieval times, which is a manuscript. I have to say it's not an important book intellectually, but it's a book of prayers.
And it's an important book for this community.
It's a very important book. By the way, it's the first thing that we have that there are Yiddish words that appears in writing.
So it's one of the oldest examples of Yiddish.
Yeah, the first, as much as I know. Anyway, during the Second World War, it was confiscated by the Nazis. Ask the librarian of the city what he thinks about this manuscript, because he thought perhaps they can make something out of it. The librarian, who understood entirely what he sees, he said, "I cannot actually check it here. Let's give it to me." He took it away and hold it, and it was in his hands till the end of the war. When the war ended, he actually declared that it is with him, and then you can see immediately how the colonial projects works. All the colonial power, not all, but some of the colonial power tried to put hands on that thing. The first were the Americans, and he refused to give them. Second were the French liberation occupation power that's here in Germany. He refused to give them. Then he came. I will not go through the whole story. It was held in Germany. The Jewish community demanded that it will stay with it. And remember that manuscripts are always held by Jewish communities. This manuscript ended up, despite the objection of the Jewish community in Germany, despite the fact that it doesn't have nothing to do with Israel. It belongs it's ended up, of course, in the National Library in Jerusalem. How? Instead of being part of any Jewish community in the world, ended up in the Hebrew Library of Jerusalem. Now, you could say the common sense people immediately say, yes, but the people had to, just after the war, we had to save this manuscript. Germany was, maybe, but then in that case, even if you take that, it could have been like in deposit of the Hebrew Library, of the Jewish
on loan.
National Library. Yes. But it belongs to that in Jerusalem. Just think now the point, National Library, like the library in Israel of a state that just exists for 10 years, whatever, then sees itself as the owner of all the Jewish treasures
in the world
ever existed. Yeah, all the manuscript, and they collected it, and that is their role to have. They are the owner of us, of everything,
On our behalf.
on our behalf. Exactly. And by the way, they also in the National Library they also have a very interesting collection of Palestinian things. Yeah.
So that's classic colonial sort of dispossession.
Entirely. They
Yeah.
just took everything else. But the first thing, what is important to understand, I think, for the Jews, who what is the structure of subjectivity of Jews, how every Jew is in a way trapped within a colonial structure that is based in Europe, is acting in Palestine, and it's not a national project; it's a colonial project. Zionism is the negation of the Jew.
Tell us, say more about that.
When they want to speak about a civil society, they speak about mamlacha. They speak about you should be mamlachti, namely mamlachti is kingdom. So they speak about there is a certain way of understanding of Israel as the kingdom of the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
The role of the Jews now is to be basically the propaganda agency of Israel and to support it. But that is the last stage. Why should the Jewish community in New York, which is one of the, or Buenos Aires, or which are the most amazing, I mean, it can be amazing ways of life, should end up as aliyah in Israel, as soldiers in Gaza or whatever. Zionism is something that works in transforming the Jew into a subject of a colonial order, and that's the Daniel Deronda is so important, but not only that, so I have many other colonial order, not a nation state order. The Jew doesn't become Serb or it becomes part of a colonial. It's sent to Palestine. It's sent to Palestine with the Christian new movement of sending the Jews to Palestine at that time, but in a secular way. Colonialism with all this play of the secularism. And if you look at the Israeli society, you see it very strongly. The secular society there, the society that's living this lie of they are secular. Their role is to transform the holy object. Is always related to these holy objects, and they do it in this thing that was established as part of the colonial order, not as part of the nation state. And therefore, in this order, for every Jew in the world, there is a place. They are always in relation to this place, and they are the new Jew, the liberated Jew, the Jew that was liberated by this very goodwill. I'm not trying to criticize George Eliot about what she saw. Never mind about what she saw about Palestine, but that is not our point. Yeah, we are not speaking about people of bad or we're trying to understand the way that space, the horizon for subjectivity for Jew in modernity.
If I understand correctly, the Jews are the first victims of this colonial project before we even get to the Palestinians and other groups.
I don't want to speak about victims. I want to speak about the way. Yes, they are victims, but it's not the point. Is not the point is how you create this power, colonial power in Palestine. Who is serving you? Who is Britain sending to be part of to take care of the holy place for Christianity? How, in the same way, they redefine the Jew as part of a colonial project, they give the national movement the power to take over the holy places, because it's against the logic of what happened in the UK. It's against the logic of what happened in the West. Is the separation of the holiness is not part of the nation. We create this transformation which is unique to this place of the Jew within the colonial order. And you have to understand that the Jew is not like free floating subject. It's created in modernity, and the way that it's created, if we want to understand what is a Jew, to say the question.
The question of all questions.
Yeah, the question. We will never understand it, of course. There is nothing that you can, but the point is how the institutions, the culture, and so on tries to create this subject of the Jew in modernity is an agent of colonialism. And therefore, it's also you can see it in the fact that the Jews already before Zionism or without Zionism exactly are serving as cultural agents in North Africa for the French culture, in Eastern Europe for the German culture, in the some places of the Middle East like as agent of the British culture, and all of that is like the Jews is redefined in modernity as a certain agent of colonialism. And that is that is the liberation of the Jew, if you want to understand how the Jew was liberated. And what Zionism did is to take that and to take this oppression into the highest peak, to take control over the Jew, to rob the Jew, to rob it from culture, to rob it, to destroy the culture, to destroy all the possibility of being a Jew in communities, and to force the Jew, each of us, now we know that as Jews who live here, that we are subject to attacks and to terror attacks and because Israel is doing what it's doing. So we are always hostages of Israel, and that's let's take it to what extent it goes. It goes to the comment of the Chancellor, the actual Chancellor Merz,
the Drecksarbeit.
Yeah.
The dirty work,
which is an amazing comment, right?
It was an incredible comment. Do you think he understands how incredible that comment is?
I don't know.
I don't want to get inside his head.
Yeah,
but
I think it's, even if he understands, he cannot understand how good it was.
Right. So why? So tell us why was that? Right. Friedrich Merz said after Israel started bombing Iran, that Israel is doing the Drecksarbeit, the dirty work, for us, the West.
For the West.
For the Christians.
Yeah. For the
Goyim.
For the colonial order.
Yeah, for the colonial order.
In some places, Israel did it in a very explicit way, like in the 56 war.
That was super explicit, right? The French, British, and Israel.
French, British, and Israel just decided to do a colonial war. And the same now. Yeah. It's like without any covering.
Right. It's very clear.
They're very clear. And what Merz said is like, he just exactly defined this support, the great support of Israel, Merz and all of this German politics, just say the Jews, Israel, the Jews which Germany identify with Israel, almost the same. You don't know how to distinguish, because anyone who is anti-Zionist Jew is not a Jew for German.
And increasingly many other countries and governments.
So the role of the Jew is to be there and to do that is the new role of the Jew after the liberation, the enlightenment.
That's a very shitty liberation.
Yeah, it's not.
I don't know if I like that liberation.
I'm not sure that I like it either. I mean, perhaps Merz wants to do it. Perhaps we would.
I don't know if I don't know if the Bupkes wants to be liberated by Friedrich Merz.
Right. That's I think we have to. Yeah, but that's the point. That's the story is always, of course, a story of liberation. It's like the story of colonialism is always a story of liberation of different group, which is always like the colonial power, especially in the we liberated the Afghan women and liberated the Iraqis and built a wonderful democracy.
And now with Iran.
And Iran and Syria and Lebanon and it's a whole world of, and Vietnam, and we don't have to count all the liberation in South America.
So much freedom. So much freedom. Everybody's free.
So for me, the moment is important that no Jew can stand without understanding that Israel is not just taking on the that's to claim not in my name is not enough, because Zionism is doing the Dreckarbeit for colonialism. That is Zionism. And it's doing it with abusing and using the Jews and making them into that thing that we see now in Gaza. And but that's the end of this history. The point is to investigate this issue of what is to be a Jew, the way that a Jew feels itself, like every other. It's not like something specific about the Jew. It's like every other subject in the world. But we are speaking about Jews. The way that it feels itself free to act as an agent and so is imposed by a colonial order that is reimposed, and it's getting worse and worse. And most of the Jews now are somehow subject to that in the world, not only in Israel, to that colonial order, which for the Jews in Israel will end if miracles can happen. I never.
Haven't seen one in a while.
Yeah, no, the Talmud says doesn't say that there are no miracles. It says that you cannot trust them to solve the issue. I mean, you cannot, and so you cannot really know that's the. So perhaps there will be a miracle, but we cannot trust this in our analysis. And that is the important point. Yeah, that you cannot trust it. You cannot build a rational. You cannot build a system of
based on miracles.
Based on miracle. The Jews who cooperate with Israel and outside of Israel are bringing this disaster. Instead of they think, and I truly believe that most of them, like always, most of the people don't aware of what they do, and they really believe that they save even the life of Jews. They don't.
Very few people actively do a bad thing thinking they're doing a bad thing. Right. They think they're doing a good thing.
Yeah. Luckily, we are having now, I think I guess it's your impression too. My impression is that in the last few years, we never had so many young Jewish anti-Zionist people since a long time ago. There is a new movement of Jews who says enough is enough, and we want to understand ourselves. Not Israel will decide how we understand ourselves.
We want to be liberated from the liberation.
Yes, so we want to. You will not impose, and we will not take part in it. But to take part in this genocide or whatever will happen still in Gaza, which we don't know. And this is another issue. We didn't get into it. We just wanted to speak about the Jewish subject here. But the this Jewish subject will be able to build an opposition, to build something which will enable, even in this critical issue of the Palestinians, only when it understands that it's itself, this subjectivity of the Jew is related to this subjectivity of the Palestinian by the colonial order. There is no way to live other than that. It's like you cannot be a Jew in Wisconsin. You are connected to what happened to the Palestinians, the same colonial order that's make you into this whatever we discussed.
This agent.
Few details, and agent of colonial subject. Your subjectivity is an agency of colonialism.
So you sound somewhat hopeful. But at the same time, you also say this is the end.
Don't know. I have no clue what will happen. I see that the destruction of Jewish communities. Let's say leave Israel aside. It's not interesting in that sense because it was never Jewish. It's like just I don't know what is Jewish in this culture. Which the only Jewish thing in Israel is like you are a Jew if you hate Arabs. That's the only sense of being a Jew there. We have allies in Israel among the leftists and among the other and we have to support them, and because in each country this nation state country and this order always will separate us as leftists or as whatever from the others, and that is the international is the most important thing here. So there are wonderful, amazing people in Israel, Jews who do some work, not necessarily the same understanding of Jewishness that we have. But we still have to consider it, and to know that's the same that's in America. Even if Trump will go on, and so there are plenty of Americans who fight, who struggle.
But you said that it's not enough to say "not in my name" because it is in our name.
Yeah, because I think "not in my name" is still this feeling, a bit of historical 60s kind of formulation. I am pure. I am not. It's a moralistic point of view. We have to understand how we are products of being, if you want to say so, and we have to understand how we are produced, how our subjectivity is produced, what does it serve, and how we can reorganize it or change it. And if you just say "not in my name" in that sense that I don't take part in it, you do take part in it because that is how you are created as a Jew, as part of it. That is how you were created by the order. So, "not in my name" is a sentiment, of course, that I share entirely. But I think we have to be more political and more historical in order to understand what what is possible for us to do as and to save Palestinians, to save Jews, to save to and to stop being liberated as a colonial part of Europe, and to be excluded from Europe, to be excluded and to be sent to Netanyahu to be our king. There are many points. I don't
But
know
we
where
could,
you want to talk and how much time we have.
I think we could probably put a comma, not a period. I think we put a comma on that. And I think we should have more conversations like this.
I will be glad to.
Yeah.
Because there are many things here, of course, even the most. I'm the whole thing. I just try to, as I said, just to point to that structure of colonial subjectivity in terms of agency of the Jew. But each part of what we talk, there is so much to talk about the Jewish history, about Jewish culture, about Jewish cultures, about that Israel is destroying, about the ways that's what it means to act as a Jew, what
It has no end.
about the genocide, about the fact that Palestinians and a Jew from Wisconsin cannot be separated in that world, and so on and so forth.
Well, I think, as they say in media, leave them wanting more. And I hope we've left our audience with a lot to think about. I think, Oded, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've scratched the surface only of so many of these major topics.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good place to start, not a good place to end. And I hope we'll continue.
Thank you.
Oded Schechter, Talmudic scholar, philosopher, and just a nice guy.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice.
Exactly.
And Seamus, we got to know Seamus.
Yes.
Who's having a very chill time on the sofa. I mean, Seamus has the best.
Yeah.
Because Seamus doesn't have to think about these things.
We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. We don't know if Seamus is liberated, if he's also an agent of
Yeah.
But anyway, as said, we're going to, for those listening now, thank you for listening. Obviously, subscribe to the Bupkes, thebupkes.com. You can, of course, do all your research on Oded online if you want on your own time. We're going to be posting, when we do post this episode, we're going to put a bunch of background information to give a little bit some guideposts, because it is a very complicated and convoluted situation. And we are going to talk more. So you should come back to talking about Bupkes. Keep talking with us. We'll keep talking together. Thanks for listening.